Oh. Today's video is going to be a review of the SILCA Ultimate TPU Tubes. But more specifically, it's actually going to be a review of their marketing. And bear with me here. I don't normally do this, but I want to get it verbatim. This is SILCA's marketing pitch in their product launch video. I want to make sure I get this exactly correct. SILCA Ultimate TPU Tubes, a complete reinvention of the lightweight inner tube. TPU tubes have long been fast and fragile. In this episode, Josh explains how SILCA solved every common problem, from valve stem pullout and flange cracking to heat sensitivity and leaks, by re-engineering the category from the ground up. Put that in the recycle bin. The issue I have with this is, and if you look at SILCA's comments, many of us have been using, for comparison, the Ride Now 38 and 45s, which have metal valve stems and replaceable valve cores in them. And, I don't know, myself, I haven't had very many issues with these comparable products. So I'm going to do a fair comparison between their actual competitors. Stick around. Depending on how you use these, I may expose a fatal flaw or two in their design. But in the initial product launch video, these tubes are priced at $39 US, which is comparable to the big brand competitors they have. But they seem to ignore the fact that these tubes, which they refer to as the Amazon tubes, can be bought for roughly $10 to $15 US on either Amazon or AliExpress. And the marketing is designed to, let's call it, create maximum doubt about any performance of any of their competitors, and particularly the Ride Now tubes, which they don't mention directly. I'm going to give you a quick overview of these products before tearing into SILCA's marketing and specifically address the major points Josh shows in the following videos. Vid 1 is the initial product launch video. Vid 2 is the response to all the questions and comments they got from their initial product launch video. Vid 3 is the video for the project launch of their Elettrico pumps. And Vid 4, of course, is when they had to address the controversy of their launch of the said Elettrico pumps. I'll also reference some videos I produced. All video links are in the description. These are the two tubes compared. The material is different between them, and I'd argue this is a better material, but I'll get into that in more detail later. The proprietary stem, as Josh says, imitates a tubeless valve core. In this case, you have plastic bonded here with the steel likely heat shrunk in here. Josh notes that these tend to have cracks in them. I haven't observed it. I'll also note that this is a more expensive metal cap than the plastic cap. If you look at the seams, these are likely glued or bonded, and Josh states that his seams, which are butt welded, are superior. In the cases of strength and air leakage, I don't think there's really any performance difference between these two that matters for your average cyclist. The SILCA with a 70 millimeter stem road tube, and the SILCA with a 50 millimeter stem for either light MTB or for gravel. Let's look at Ride Now. That's the 38. And there's the gravel 45. I'm not going to bother verifying how good this easy to lose silica patch is that they include with an alcohol pad with your tube, but I can assure you that the included Ride Now patches with no alcohol pad are absolute crap and should be thrown out. But considering the considerable cost difference, what I recommend, and there's a video on this, is using the Part GP2 as your patch for the Ride Now tubes. It works absolutely fantastic. Looking at directions included, the silica is a pure word salad of nothingness, which needs to be improved. Maybe get rid of all this advertising down here about how great they are, or include a paper copy in the package. As for Ride Now, obviously you can't read that, but it gives you a little bit more detail, especially with rim brakes. But both of these don't provide you adequate directions for using the boom boxes that everyone loves so much now. If I took a guess at who makes the SILCA tubes, it's going to be REVOLOOP, just based on the material. And it appears that REVOLOOP also makes in Germany a lot of the other brands' tubes too.
The video starts off with Josh boldly claiming that they've solved the problem with TPU tubes. Personally, I really wasn't aware that there was a problem with the TPU tubes I was using. Then after that, they launch into a story. Now, as a public speaker, I can tell you right now, you always start off a talk or a pitch with a story to get the audience to identify with you. And that's exactly what they've done here.
Let me summarize the story for you. Josh, his wife, and kids, I'm assuming 2, commute. And he decided to install Tubolito tubes with this known valve stem issue, according to him, in all of his bikes, which are e-bikes that weigh 50 pounds. The reason he did it is he wanted to save 1 pound in rotating weight. And what he reports back is that it has to be a minimum of 8 Tubolito tubes failed within 6 months. And while his wife was at work, which got him into a lot of trouble, her tubes failed within 1 week. There's so much about this story I can critique. The first question for the comments down below is, can someone explain to me why you'd want to lose 1 pound off of a commuting 50-pound e-bike? Second question is, how can you possibly do that using TPU tubes unless these e-bikes are fat bikes? Next, Josh, you should be in trouble with your wife because your logic sucks in this story. So consider I have a sample of 8 items. Doesn't matter what they are. When one fails, aka at the valve stem this way, okay, that's an occurrence. When the second fails in the same manner, you got to start questioning things. When the third fails in the same manner, I would be taking every one of these tubes out of these bikes and replacing them, particularly considering you're commuting and you got to get to work on time. The next thing is, can you explain to me in your judgment, like when you're at the 7th failure of these, what is the decision point to take the 8th one out? So like I said, it's no wonder your wife is mad at you. There's a lot more I could critique on this story, but I'll leave it there. Why would Josh tell this story in the first place? Like I said, he wants to identify with his audience. And if you think that this little fireside chat he has is completely intimate, it's not. It's got a script. Consultants or marketing people at SILCA have designed this. So let's look at the story itself. him getting in trouble with his wife. That is something the audience clearly will identify with. Considering that, I bet you if you looked at SILCA's channel analytics, people that watch this are men between 35 and let's say 70 years old. And we'll agree that the majority of these men have A, either been in a relationship, been married, or are married. And the common thing in all three of those threads is that you're going to get in trouble with your partner at some point. So that's why he told the story. And most, I would say 85% of his audience can identify with the story.
Josh states that dyes, notice the word actually can. That does not mean will reduce. And he calls it the peak elongation, the ultimate tensile strength, and the yield strength of the material. And he shows the valves of the Ride Now 38 and a Tubolito. Further, he states that, of course, just like the German purity beer law, there's also a law for TPU, and there's nothing added to his TPU. It is pure.
Throughout the video, Josh states that clear TPU is stronger than dyed TPU. Fair enough. But what he does not tell you is what is the change in its strength or properties as a result of putting the dye in. As an example, at 1% dye, which he mentions, are you at 50% strength or are you at 98% strength? He never mentions that. I have a feeling it's closer to 98 than 50%. Josh refers to a bunch of strength properties. When he's talking about elongation, yield stress, and that, I'll give you an example here, but they'll take the fabric or material and put it in a jig and stretch it until it fails. And what will happen is it will yield, this material will neck off, and then it'll pull apart and snap. When it yields, the material changes its property and thins out and becomes weaker, as shown here on this Tubolito. Another point is around the joints here, and typically what you want to have is this joint or join, which Josh points out can leak, to be stronger than the body material. And of course, here's the valve stem on the Tubolitos, which are known to fail when you're using them for prolonged periods of time, because this stem is thinner than the actual opening of your rim, and over time it fatigues. Let's do a little test in the name of science. So I'm going to use this to explain to you the stresses a tube experiences. So right now I'm at 3.5 psi. I'm now at roughly 5 psi. Hopefully I can keep this thing on the rim. If you look at my other video, that's the sphincter effect right there. But look, the tube is starting to yield right here. So that's its yield strength that Josh was talking about. We're at 3.5 psi. Let's keep going here. We now are at 4 psi. We're probably not going to get too much further, because all the volume expansion is going to be right in this part of the tube right here. And we're going to go to failure here, I have a feeling. Okay, the maximum I can get is about 4 psi out of this. But eventually, if I take this all the way around, it's going to fail. But we might as well just, that's your ultimate strength right there, or it's failed. Now, let's compare it to a Tubolito, which I believe has a stronger or higher yield strength than the Ride Now. So right there, it may be starting to yield there, but we are right now at 18 psi. You're going to see the sphincter effect right here again. You see right here, without me putting any air in, at 18 psi, this is starting or has yielded. Every time I put air in, it stays at 18 psi and this area expands. Oh, that scared me. That was the ultimate strength, probably at around when I pumped that 19 psi. Neither of these tubes failed at their joints, nor should they. Not really trying to do some deep materials engineering here, but I want to describe in this unconfined test what happened. The ride now probably hit, they specify a limit of 5 psi, but at about 6, because I couldn't keep track of the gauges, it yielded. And then what happened is I pumped more air and it just kept stretching. And who knows when it would have exploded. Probably when the whole thing went around the rim and it was a complete balloon. Tubolito was much different, much stiffer. So I pumped it up to around 18 psi where it yielded, or the tube started to thin out in places, and then pumping it a little bit more, it exploded at the same 18 psi. The point in all of this, though, is all discussion Josh makes about strength. On the Tubolito, you're probably operating in this range at any time, and on the ride now, you're probably somewhere in this range with a factor of safety in both of them before you yield, because your stretch is confined by the bike tire. So as long as you stay within the manufacturer's range, you should be good.
Color doesn't do nothing to plastic. LOL, snake oil.
Love that comment. Very class. And of course, like 3 comments later, there's someone, plastics engineer here. Yes, the plastics can dramatically change the way plastics. I mean, I love you guys. I think that's amazing.
So what I just played was Josh in the video tour reaction video mentioning a comment and how a plastics engineer came out to defend SILCA. If you can read with your glasses on, I posed a question and I did a search of the comments where engineer, snake oil, laugh out loud, plastics, etc. And I could find no match to that comment. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, please put it in the comments below, but I can't find it.
Let's give it to Josh that quality control on the SILCA tubes is better than Ride Now. He seems to have a lot of issues with the Ride Nows. Of the 14 Generation 1 tubes I have, I reviewed them and only found one non-fatal flaw, which was a bit of an ugly join seam. But that seam, I believe, is still going to be stronger than the body of the tube. On the 38s and 45s, and I've looked at 8 of them, issues on YouTube, and Josh has pointed out, are that the valve stems may be cracked. I haven't noticed that in any of the 8 I have. And that the seams, once again, may have issues. I haven't noticed any.
I really feel bad for Josh. On top of getting in trouble with his wife because all 8 of the Tubolitos failed, 3 out of 6 of the Ride Nows he got from Amazon, the bases of them were cracked. Watching silica videos, you will realize that Josh is cursed. Of products that his competitors are putting out, there is an inordinate amount of failures when he tests them. In the launch video, we get introduced to Silica's new patented valve stem, which is no pumping loads. Regrettably, that's not a distinguishing feature because the Ride Now 38 has none either. Josh goes on to state that all other brands say you cannot use the mini boom boxes with their TPU tubes. That is not true. In the case of Ride Now, they don't say anything. In the product launch video, it recommends filling the tubes in 15 psi increments. If you go slowly, yeah, it's not going to fail. Now, if I actually read the rather poor directions on the back of the box, what it says is inflate in 15 psi steps to desired pressure. Also says high pressure flow can damage tube. What does that mean? Finally, in the second video, they specify that between 15 psi increments, you should take a minute break. Picture you're on a group ride with all of your type A buddies. You've got your top of the line bike with your 32 millimeter Grand Prix 5000 tires, and you get a flat. You're going to put a silica tube in. You've only got the mini boom box. What you have to do, usually it's about 1 second per PSI on a 32. So you pump for 15 seconds to 15 PSI, you wait a minute and repeat. It is going to take you 4 minutes to get your pump up to pressure. Now, if you don't have Phil Gaiman-like musculature in your arms, you can probably do the same with this high-quality SILCA Elettrico pump in about a minute and a half. You really wanted to have your buddies waiting around for you? This to me is showstopper or fatal flaw 1. I'm perplexed as to why Josh does not mention that you just use the electric pump with the hose to reduce the heat issues, as he did in his previous video where he introduced his line of electric pumps. In the fourth video in my list, SILCA admits that ECLIPSE makes their pumps, and ECLIPSE's recommendations are to use a hose on all TPU tubes. Even the Tubolitos, if you look at one of the videos I've got, can survive with the hose with no issues.
The question is, I have got the tube mounted in here, is if it's going to go the way of these other tubes I've destroyed when giving it a test with the mini boom box. Even the Tubolitos, which everyone loves, survive with the hose on. So will this. That's not that hot. So that's 73 PSI, 20 mil wide rim, 28 GP 5000. I honestly don't understand this, SILCA or Josh. This is not that hot at all. If you use the hose, are you ignoring your manufacturer's recommendations? I thought we were going to have a fatal flaw and this thing was going to fail, but not so. I don't even know what to say. This works just fine. I don't know why you have the recommendation that you do.
In the rollout video, this article on rolling resistance is quoted. Link in the description. Clear tube superiority continues. In the original video, Josh claims that clear tubes are simply faster, and in the second video makes a claim that his tube is 0.6 to 0.8 watts faster than the Ride Now he shows. Considering his tubes are likely REVOLOOPs and also what I'll call mid-weight or 40-gram plus tubes, I'm not sure about this.
Let's dig into this bicycle rolling resistance data a little bit more. Josh states in vid 1 what are the best and the worst TPUs for rolling resistance when compared to the standard, which is the latex tube. I use these. They were great. I believe I actually used the SILCA brand ones that were obviously made by Vittoria. He also states that SILCA was not tested, but of course, we're going to assume that SILCA is REVOLOOP. So the fastest tubes have something in common, unless you're ECLIPSE or ECLIPSE, and that's that they're thin-walled, which Bicycle Rolling Resistance does not recommend using in their text based on potential durability issues. So what is then of the midweight tubes the winner? It's this Ride Now tube right here. Interesting. And it's actually faster than the clear REVOLOOP tube. So I've got to question Josh's logic when he's presenting the data on you. Also, he was correct that the worst one was clearly the Foss tube down here, but this thing was used to be a super durable commuter tube and wasn't designed specifically for rolling resistance.
Remind me where your other products are made, Josh?
In none of my videos do I claim any industry level expertise. But for once, I'm going to claim some expertise in a video. Specifically, Josh, twice in the initial video, claimed that people were adding fragrances to TPU. He didn't accuse anyone, but I've got one of the industry experts here. So let's see how things go. Heinz, buddy? Okay, there's, man, come on. Is there any fragrance in this? Let's just see here, and nope, same reaction, same level of fragrance. I don't know what to say, Josh, about your fragrance accusations. Sorry, buddy. Let's go back into the recycle bin here. I got to dig this back out. Oh, yeah, here's Silica's original marketing description. I hate to tell you, it's bullshit. It really is. I don't know why they wouldn't have marketed those tubes as a marginal gain like they do with other stuff. I don't get it. Oh, this is the tale of two tubes. This is a $15 US tube. This is a $40 US tube. We have a Toyota and we have a Lexus. I originally thought when I was going to do this video, the second to last scene was going to be me melting the tube using a SIC Plus, which is the same as a Silica electric pump, following their recommendations with the hose on. But that didn't happen clearly. I'm completely perplexed at Silica's marketing, which has been the main topic of this video, and specifically the fact that they recommend these 1-minute gaps at 15 psi bursts when clearly you can inflate one of these straight. What do I know? But look, with that, in an age of oversized pulley wheels, Hambini bottom brackets, ceramic bearings, and titanium bolts, to me, the materials on this tube are clearly superior. I would say that the join on it is clearly superior. And potential heat issues aside, the valve stem on this appears to be superior. So why wouldn't you buy it if you wanted an upgrade from one of these? Personally, I just don't see the reason to do it because the Ride Nows have been performing completely fine. Exactly no issues. So look, with that, like, Subscribe. If you disagree with me, please put it in the comments below. If I've made a mistake, I certainly will correct it in the description. With that, ride hard.